We've yet to reach space whilst destroying into Slavs and reliable rockets. We're gonna need to do something drastic. So just figure it out. Perhaps we could rush to launch the first satellite. Try by all means. Following 2 failed launch attempts, the Pan-Slavic Empire had developed a greater understanding of the failure modes of the V2 rocket, and had hopefully improved the reliability of the vehicle to satisfactory levels. R2-14 is ready for launch and has successful ignition at 7:06. And then suffers a complete failure just meters off the pad. Whilst the R2 has a suboptimal track record, the Slavs push on with the program, as it's clear that liquid fuel rockets must be further developed. In fact, among their lead designers, a new vehicle is in its early planning stages, which could achieve milestones never thought possible. The Federal Union of Crenia's ever-reliable Emerald flies yet again, now sporting new scientific equipment. The United People's Republic of Usonia is far behind in a space race and now tries to regain lost ground. This begins with reaching space, something not yet achieved by Usonia. Following greater research into the V2 engine, yet another R2 is launched. Finally, a liquid fuel rocket reaches space, resuming Slavic access to space. Following another successful flight, upgrades to the Australian Space Center are made, and plans begin to be drawn up for a new, innovative class of vehicle. Yet another Emerald flies. However, for unknown reasons, the max altitude of the vehicle greatly decreases, and thus fails to complete contract requirements. Following this, CASA would pursue new sounding rockets as a replacement. Finally, the Hornet bomber succeeds, and Usonia reaches space. Coupled with growing concern over foreign technology, the ruling Usonian Workers' and Farmers' Communist Party will increasingly take an interest in the UNSA following this small victory. With the R2 now flight proven, regular launches can now take place. Also, major modifications were made to the upper stage, increasing payload capacity. Following the previous failure, Usonia now deploys their new liquid-fueled Visca rocket, using it as a first stage for the Emerald. Both USI and CASA would realize that most X-plane programs remained unviable. Aircraft facilities could be used for testing equipment for other organizations. And so, many uninteresting and uneventful part tests were conducted at both space centers, allowing for the hastened development of new technologies. For the next several days, sounding rockets would continue to fly as usual. On the 32nd and 33rd, Usonia would see more failures with the Visca until the 36th. The 38th saw R2-19 suffer an electrical failure and conduct a lawn dart maneuver. On the 44th, USI would finally be allocated more funding. During this time, various upgrades would be conducted to Space Center facilities. Consistent only with internal numbering schemes, the Pan-Slavic Empire began testing for the R6. The ambitious vehicle was to be the first ICBM. A static fire was conducted with the first stage engines, which produced satisfactory results. Whilst another R6 first stage engine was ready for testing, Emerald 27 would launch uneventfully. Yet another R6 static fire is completed, continuing preparation for a flight test of vehicle. The day ends with a standard horn bumper flight. At 3:06, Hornet Bumper 12 launches on yet another nominal flight. At 7:21, R2-23 launches and lands on the 54th. At USI, preparations are conducted for a major static fire test campaign, part of USI's currently secretive effort to gain a lead in the space race. Within just 5 minutes, 3 static fires are conducted for Usonia's new Echo missile/launch vehicle. The test proved successful. Yet another Hornet bumper is launched. The flight proceeds as expected and is successfully recovered. Future flights are delayed, however, as Usonia works towards a major milestone. Unaware of the operations ongoing in Usonia, the Slavs launch yet another R2. Unfortunately, much like the Slavs experienced earlier, the descent vehicle was destroyed on landing, losing all data. However, unknown to Usonia, this setback would pale in comparison to the events of the coming days. More static fires were conducted for the R6, which would soon deliver data for the development of a far more capable engine, intended for a low-carbon orbit-capable vehicle. The Slavs hoped to reach the goal of the first satellite, and seem on track to complete this within just a few days. The first flight of the R6 would end abruptly when a multi-engine failure caused the vehicle to crash down on the launch pad. However, efforts continued to develop orbital launch capabilities. Late in the day, a strange radio signal gets picked up by receivers all across Kerbin. The news spreads, first as a rumor, then as a terrifying reality. After pausing for a few seconds, he responded. At the Pan-Slavic Parliament, a regular meeting is interrupted when a functionary sprints in with the information. Finally, Chairwoman Emma Kerman announced a live broadcast to the whole world. Usonia has cemented itself in space history. As Vanguard 1 orbits unopposed by foreign satellites, it panic spreads throughout Usonia and the Pan-Slavic Empire. This would lead to the strengthening of the anti-international pact between the two nations, both agreeing to pursue policies to weaken Usonia. The Cold War grows closer to a third Great War. Unknown to all but a few in Usonia, Vanguard 1 had two previous launch attempts, one at 117 and the other at 321, which had failed to leave the pad due to engine failure, but the vehicle survived both attempts to finally successfully launch at 524. Had the engine failed later in flight, the course of history may have been drastically altered. Shaken by Vanguard 1, the Slavs and Crenians see a pause in launches for coming days, whilst Usonia continues forward. In response to Usonia's major victory, Usonia hastened the construction of its own orbital launch vehicle. This begins with a test of the first stage as a boost for Emerald, testing the practicality of the unique control system using small nozzles on the fins. The first stage suffers a multi-engine failure and fails to leave the pad. After being rolled back, the engine was replaced, and at 2:31, a second attempt occurs. The R6 flies yet again on a trajectory to test precise guidance, aiming for a specific apoapsis. Following this, the Pan-Slavic Empire would pursue a new vehicle for its first satellite. Early in the day at 0:19 and 0:58 respectively, 2 launch attempts are made by Crenia. The first failing as Emerald 32 suffers an engine failure on the launch pad. Attempt 2 succeeds, and Emerald flies successfully. Continued development occurs on the full Diomede vehicle as Crenia tries to get second place in his second leg of the space race. Meanwhile, at 3:45 and 4:02, Q-stack fire tests are conducted by Pan-Slavic Empire's new R7 rocket. Flying essentially the same mission as 15, 16 sees similar success. Despite the extensive testing of the Diomede booster, multiple engine failures cripple the vehicle, and Emerald fails to reach altitude. In an attempt to return the first photos from space, Hornet Bumper 17 is equipped with a small film camera to activate in flight. However, due to a higher payload mass, the vehicle is destroyed on descent. Only over 10 days after Vanguard 1, the Pan-Slavic Empire readied its response. The satellite Usonia 1 is to be launched by the new R7 rocket. The craft aims for a polar orbit as the Slavic launch site lies too far from the equator and is directly west of Usonia airspace. The first attempt at 3:21 fails before liftoff, but the vehicle was repaired and relaunched at 6:54. A faulty starter causes the launch clamps to release the vehicle before ignition. The engine is unable to ignite and severe structural damage is caused when the vehicle impacts the launch table. In the final test before the first launch of the full Diomede vehicle, another engine failure caused the loss of Emerald 34. Flying with a lighter payload, the vehicle survives descent and has a successful flight. Usonia now attempts its own satellite launch, hoping to reach orbit before Usonia 2 is launched. Named ostensibly for a term for stars, the name Asterix ostensibly references the bureaucracy that kept changing the launch vehicle used to meet demands from various regions of the Union. Setting on the Diomede BP-4, a larger version of the originally proposed Diomede A, the first launch proceeds as expected. An RCS system, similar to that found on Echo, keeps the stage stable. A third stage will insert the payload into its final orbit. Unfortunately, the vehicle experiences a catastrophic failure and falls short of orbit. While Australia and the Pan-Slavic Empire battle for second, Usonia awaits the completion of more advanced tracking systems before pursuing more satellite launches. Hornet Bumper 19 launches, and yet again fails due to high payload mass and poor parachute configuration. Here, the Hornet Bumper must be redesigned before continued flights. Usonia makes a final attempt at reaching orbit. Unfortunately, early in flight control was lost, leaving the vehicle to crash into the ocean. Also, I forgot to set the launch site, so I launched the KSP by accident, and still wanted to revert flight but couldn't. The flight profile of the R7 is carefully tuned to ensure the upper stage can circularize in one burn, as the engine lacks multiple ignitions and/or ullage relying on hot staging. The Pan-Slavic Empire now stands near equal with Usonia, as the first 80 days have now passed in the space age. We're falling behind. Any ideas? Capture could probably be reached with our capabilities. Could we gain any data from it, however? Look, we need to rush for any milestones we can. It's getting rough in Australian Parliament. I'm not sure we can count on them continuing to fund us without more milestones being reached. At the end of these 62-ish days, the three agencies currently possess these main resources. These technologies, and have upgraded the following facilities. As two satellites circle Kerbin, nations turn their attention towards the nearby celestial bodies. Thank you for watching. This is my first time trying to do more serious storytelling. If you want more content like this, please like, subscribe, and/or comment on this video. If you have suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Goodbye!